Hello, my name is Sam Feltham. I'm the Director of the Public Health Collaboration and welcome to the PHC Virtual Conference 2020. The coronavirus has changed all of our lives, but where there's an obstacle, there's also an opportunity. And that opportunity comes in the guise of this virtual conference. Earlier this year, we had to postpone our two main events, the annual conference and the Real Food Rocks Festival, until next year. These events allow us to connect, learn and grow, but they also help us raise crucial funds for the PHC to continue. With that in mind, and before we let the next presenter speak, this virtual conference is 100% free for all. But if you find the content valuable today, then please consider donating £2 or whatever you can afford through the Total Giving website via www.phcuk.org/donate. Or if you're in the UK, you can simply text PHC to 70660 to donate £2 directly from your phone. We hope you enjoy the conference from wherever you are in the world, and be sure to get involved in the civil conversation on the comment section here on YouTube or via the hashtag PHCVCon2020 on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for your support, take care and stay safe.
Hi everyone, and thank you Sam for giving up one of your valuable slots across this great weekend. I'm Mark Hancock, and in 2010 I was diagnosed a type 2 diabetic after no doubt being metabolically unwell for many years. When you're diagnosed, it's a frightening time. You're fearful over what to eat, fearful for the future, and having to come to terms with a disease that's chronic and progressive. Fortunately, 4 years ago, by chance, I heard Dr. Michael Mosley on BBC Radio 2 on the Jeremy Vine show, and I found out type 2 diabetes doesn't need to be a life sentence, and it changed my life. Not only did I put my diabetes into remission in a matter of weeks, but I also got to meet some amazing people, such as Dr. David Unwin, Sam Feltham, and many, many others. True leaders in the diet revolution, where many accept the low-fat, high-carb approach, really hasn't helped the population control their weight and has led to greater numbers falling foul of metabolic disorders. Through the wonderful work of Sam Feltham at the PHC, I've been able to forge links with many in healthcare locally who believe there's an easier way to return the nation to previous health levels last seen in the 1970s and earlier. In this video, I'd like to introduce you to Sue and her team of diabetic nurses, where together we've begun implementing a low-carb approach for their patients, with the ultimate goal of returning these people to former health and off drugs for good. I hope you enjoy it. So, first of all, just to say thank you so much for all giving up your valuable time. I think it's going to be really helpful, inspiring to see, how low carb has potentially changed things for you in your surgery and surgeries across the area. Even if this is a relatively new approach that we're looking at here. So I guess perhaps Sue, perhaps you could introduce yourself and your team and give us a little bit of a background to your involvement in diabetes care over the years.
Okay, so thank you, Mark. So I will let everyone else introduce themselves, but if I just give a sort of a summary of how the four of us plus many more got into a room with you, even though at this time it's now a virtual room, which is probably fortuitous. So I have worked in diabetes since 1985, and I thought I knew everything. I was a diabetes specialist nurse, I was a nurse consultant, I thought I knew everything. And then I realised after many years that I was not really helping many people. So it's a very similar story to David Unwin's, but I worked in the hospital, so I didn't see people with type 2 diabetes mainly. And then in the last few years, I started to work in primary care, started to work with a great GP surgery nearby, and started to go, oh gosh, we're really not helping people. And I'm a great resource investigator. So I started to look around and became very familiar with Michael Mosley. And that led me to starting to be attracted to the low carb way and the fasting diets. And of course, I was very aware of what was going on nationally around diabetes and the the tensions amongst my peers in diabetes. And I'd also seen you a few times, and I'd seen you deliver a few local conferences. And then one day I was talking to the other diabetes specialist nurse, Jane, who's also here. We'll come back to Jane. And I went, wonder why no one's using Mark. We haven't really heard anything about Mark. So, as you know, I took the bull by the horns. Jane and I had already been introducing people to low carb. And I decided I would come and talk to you. But as part of that, I was also, there is an initiative going on in primary care that pulls surgeries to work together. So, and that's called Primary Care Networks. And so many of your ambassadors may want to find out about these, because this is the way you get a few surgeries in the room. And some of those might be low carb interest people. And so I'd got nurses who deliver diabetes care across the patch that I work in already coming together every month. And slowly but surely, we recognised that we as a group wanted to do more about low carb. We were already doing things in our own way, but we realised that there was a power in groups, that we also needed somebody that would help us. And so I called you and said, hey, meet coffee, can you help us? Rest is history, I think. Is that enough of a summary?
No, that's terrific. And it was great when you called me, because from my background of being a patient and then wanting to sort of shout from the rooftops at what I've been able to do for my own health, to have someone to come to me and say, look, can you help us with our patients? Oh God, yeah, I would do it till the end of time. I love doing it, and it's great to see how you are really embracing it and seeing those the potential in it.
Okay, so I suppose one of the questions, if I was listening to this, is I came and found you, and I wonder if how do you get nurses like me to put their hand up? Because I probably needed to just trust that you would be able to offer me something. And that's what our first meeting was about. That I learned to trust you. I learned that what you were doing was not a wacky thing, which is what some of my peers might think. Although I don't think they can now with David Unwin's work and with PHC and all of the stuff that's coming out. And of course, with what our patients are telling us, there is no way this is wacky. This is working for people. And so I'd say seek out your nurses, you might find a willing ear. But I'm going to let my colleagues talk, because they might have a different take on the story. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I will. So, like Sue said, we had, the lead diabetes nurses of the network got together, and Sue brought you in, Mark, for that one session, and it sort of, made a lot of sense. You could see that there was results to be seen for improving people's health, reducing weight, reversing diabetes, or at least getting off medications. So there seemed, it's silly not to try it. So from a personal point of view, I thought, I'm going to do the low carb thing. We had another group that we came to, healthcare professionals came to, which you were leading. And yeah, I think most of us went onto the low carb diet and got good results initially, straight away. So, what's better to show the patient than actually you experiencing it yourself and having a bit more knowledge about it? Because, yeah, for years and years we've been saying low fat, balanced meals and things like that. And yeah, it is quite different to what a lot of people have been used to, and we have as well. But like I say, seeing results just makes sense to share the information. So yeah, I think having yourself, Mark, and other diabetes nurses, and we're all on the same sort of wall at the moment, so we can help support our patients as well, on their journey, because they've got a lot of questions. It's a big learning curve for everybody. Yeah,
and I guess that was one of the real reasons we looked at that, wasn't it? As using low carb amongst all of you initially, just to give you, I guess, a little bit of experience of what the patient's going to be going through. Did you find, was there anything surprising about it at all when you started doing low carb yourself?
I think how you change your attitude to foods quite quickly. So I've always been a person that would get up and have breakfast, whether I wanted it or not. It would be breakfast, but I just don't eat if I don't feel I need to now. So, you know, I would go longer until I have something for breakfast. If I'm hungry, I will have it. If I'm not, then it will go longer until I do have something. And it's surprising how quite easy it's been, and how many different recipes you can find really easily. I think years ago it might have been a bit harder, where it's more low carb and no alternatives. Now there's so many things that you can find. There's lots of groups you can join, and people are very keen to give information and share their recipes, which stops it being so boring. And you know, I think it's quite an easy way of eating to stick with.
That's fantastic. And Jane, you've obviously, with your patients, when you've been introducing low carb, how have they taken to it? Is it something that's been an easy conversation, or has there been any challenges on that?
I think it's a conversation that we've been having for quite a long time, and I think how the conversation goes may have changed over that time way to deliver it. And we've got more resources that we can use and demonstrate, whether they're books, online sites, infographics, or just the conversation, and giving patients the opportunity to have those conversations, come back, ask the questions, have a little bit of research, come back and talk to us a little bit more, I think has helped. But I think as far as having you and this group, it's all very well having healthcare professionals giving them information, asking them, using all our skills that we may have learned over the period of time, just, you know, to try and get information from them and to share information, to let them process things. But also now, if they have involvement from people like yourself, who have that lovely story, who are able to deliver it in a way that can relate, they can relate to, as opposed to the health professional perhaps sitting there, maybe slightly different relationship for some people. And I think they may feel, but that's for them to say, a little bit more comfortable perhaps asking all those questions or talking to people. But the low carb bit, I think, is something that we feel very, very strongly about, because it's given us so many fantastic results, whether it's our personal results or it's with our patients. So I think anything that's going to help promote that with the general public, whether you've got diabetes or not, has got to be beneficial. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. I mean, we just literally come off the back of our low carb meeting tonight, which is again one that we're obviously doing on Zoom. We're all adapting to the technology. Do you think that I mean, obviously there's been some fantastic success stories in that so far. Do you think people are adapting to being able to have these kind of group sessions and being able to still be able to help each other in the same way as perhaps we would have been able to if we'd have done it face to face?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we're all having to learn really fast with these virtual clinics, virtual meetings, virtual coffees and virtual meals out and everything. So from watching the people today, I think even those who sort of say they're not very good at the tech are managing, aren't they?
Oh.
And we're all helping each other. So we've got the facility to help each other with the chats or the WhatsApp groups. And so I think so. Yeah, it's working quite well. That's my personal feel anyway from it.
Great,
yeah.
Great. Thanks. And Paula, you've had some, I think yours was one of the first messages I had through, which said about a particular patient of yours that was sort of over the moon with suddenly having a new approach for him, a new solution to his worrying health. And I don't know whether you could just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I had a patient in with me, a gentleman, some weeks ago now, and we reached the point where he was already on several medications, three types of medication, and we'd reached the point where his HbA1c was going up. He was gaining weight, he wasn't doing very well, and we had a conversation, and we said, right, well, what do we do next? And we were talking again about our next step medication wise, and I'd been attending the groups that obviously we've been involved with the Primary Care Diabetes Network and the low carb groups, and I just received the infographics from yourself, the diabetes infographics, and I had this a conversation with this gentleman, and I said, well, actually, there is another way. There is something else you can do here. And I said to him, have you ever seen these infographics? And I showed them to him, and he just sat there and said, oh my God. He said, I have just never realized. He said, it's like it's an epiphany. He said, I can see life so differently. I can see what I've been eating has been so much higher in sugar than I realized. And he said, do you know what? He said, I'm going to take away what you've just told me, and I'm going to do this. And he said, can I have a conversation again with you? And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll hook up with you again in 2 weeks' time, and we'll see how you're doing. And he said, brilliant. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, we had another conversation, and he said, I can't believe it. He said, you've changed my life. My life has changed forever. It was an amazing moment. And I just thought, out of the back of that one conversation, it literally has changed this man's life. He's been so active within our group, text, messaging, great blood sugars, look what I'm eating. And he's totally embraced it and enjoyed it every minute.
And he's probably going to be another ambassador, I would imagine, Mark.
I think he is, yeah.
Yeah, we have already had a little chat about that. And was that the chap who also wanted to speak? He wanted to send a message, didn't he, to David Unwin?
Oh yeah, and on the back of that, he was so impressed and amazed, because I also gave him, the video links to Dr. David Unwin. I said, have a look at this. And he said, I am so impressed and amazed. He said, I feel I need to write to this gentleman. I need to send him a message. I'm going to email him personally and tell him how thankful I am and how wonderful I think it all is and how well I'm doing. And he said, everybody needs to know this. We've been doing it wrong all these years, and I want everybody to know it. So he emailed Dr. David Unwin, and he got a message back, and he was delighted, absolutely delighted. And he literally wants to shout from the rooftops. Yeah. Everybody should be on a low-carb diet.
Well, that's it. I mean, what a great message, really. It's not, we know it's not just for diabetics. We know that, there are many people that could benefit from this. And the more people, every person we help, I think, has the opportunity to go on and help other people. And I think what we're seeing in our groups is that ability. Sometimes we're just stepping back now, aren't we, and letting them help each other. And
absolutely,
I think,
yeah, they are taking over now.
Yeah.
They're definitely taking over, and they're talking to each other, and they're supporting each other, and it's just been brilliant to see. It really has, because this is a totally different way of working, and it beats sitting in front of somebody in the surgery telling them what to do. They're finding out themselves, they're finding their own way, and they're teaching us, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Really empowering, really inspiring.
I would absolutely echo that. I mean, Jane and I have been involved with the programme for the last, at the beginning of called Desmond, and whilst that was really good at the time, it's a group education programme, and I think there's nothing like groups. And so this way of working is so much more powerful when you get people in a room. Don't have lots of content. I mean, you have a bit of content, don't you, each time, which is great, showing all these experts, bringing them into our homes, and we all are learning. But it is magical to watch them all talking to each other, and that has to be down to you, Mark. So
well, yeah. I think we've got a fantastic group of patients there. And I think, and you, the way you've embraced it is just been wonderful. And hopefully it's a case of, for every bit of success, it makes you want more as well, because it's a lovely feeling when you can help someone, isn't it? It really is. Is there any final message, Sue, that you would give in terms of the way forward in all of this, and how you see the future?
Oh gosh, those are two big questions, and I could be here for hours, but I'll be very succinct. So the first one is a message, I think, for people who want to try and make this happen in their localities, is see if they can seek out, it may be their local diabetes nurse, and if they get a block, don't worry, go and find somebody else. And I'm just trying to think, and I'm going to look at my peers, where could Mark have found one of us? Because there was no doubt it needed you being around, me noticing you, me being curious as to why no one was using you, and going, right, but also having the backing of my peers, because I didn't want to do this on my own. It would have, you know, we'd have done something really good, but there's so much better. We cover, I don't think we explain that, we are from different surgeries, and there is another 3 or 4 of us, so we cover a large patch of people with diabetes, and this is the start of our journey. So I think that leads me to the vision. But I think there's something about who do they go to? I wonder, we have local meetings for our PCNs. So then there's usually groups of nurses that come together. And it may be that the ambassadors may want to see if they can come and speak to nurses, or take your video, or do something like this and get into these groups. But I think the future is going to be like this. We're already, I think a number of healthcare professionals are thinking that the COVID virus has given us an opportunity to step back and look at doing things differently. Look at us, we probably wouldn't have done this. We'd have had to have found a room, people would have taken time out, it would have been a lot more time out from people's lives, rather than the 1 hour, 2 hours, it would have been 3 hours because you include travelling. We'd have got drop off from that. So I think we're going to do more of this, but I think we've got to do the marketing now. Because our surgeries are behind us all, I think it's fair to say. Is that right?
Yeah.
You know, we are here as nurses, but we have GPs behind us. We have our surgeries behind us. So yeah, that was a lot of waffle, and I don't know if it was what you wanted, Mark.
That's absolutely fantastic, because I think the key is that hope, isn't it? And David Unwin always talks about that. Hope's the key word, and the hope for the future, and hope for making a real difference. And if we can use those ambassadors, I've met many of them, and they are fantastic. And it would be great to embrace them within it, and have those real sort of patient champions, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, on that note, thank you so much. I know it's been a very long evening because we've already had our low-carb meeting already. So I really do appreciate, and you've all got families to go back to. So thank you so much for taking the time, and I'll see you all next Monday evening.
Yeah, take care. Thank you.
All right, cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.